There is no useless experience, as read by the author. Lesson 8. Heaven has no rage, like love to hatred turned, nor hell a fury, like a woman scorned. On November 1st, 2013, I was at a high-class hotel in Nairobi at an event that was televised live on one of the largest TV stations in our country. It was the finale of a weight loss challenge that had brought together obese participants from across the country. We were competing to see who would lose the most weight and win the prize money of 1 million Kenyan shillings. It was down to the final 6. I was one of them. By the time the show was airing, I had lost about 36 kilos and was only second to a lady who had lost 38 kilos over the 4-month period that the competition had run. I was in very high spirits. But it wasn't just about the weight loss. Over the course of that competition, I had met a lady who was working for the TV station that hosted this competition. We began dating, and I had felt certain that she was the one I wanted to spend my life with. So I had planned out that day to not only be the day when I would win the prize money, but also the day I would propose to her in front of the whole world. I took the liberty to inform the director of the TV show about it, and the TV director embraced the proposal like a fish to water. The thought that a proposal would happen on her show that night was extremely exciting to her. Everybody knows good TV is about the 2 R's, ratings or revenue. This was bound to be good for the ratings, which, as we all know, would have translated to revenue eventually. She choreographed it into the show, and by the time it was starting, the host was aware and there was no backing out. My soon-to-be fiancée was present, but completely unaware. She was present to help with sound and dressed to the nines because I had told her that we would be celebrating what I was certain was my impending win later after the show at an equally fabulous establishment across town. It was never meant to be. The win, that is. Shortly after they started announcing the positions of the finalists, from the 6th to the 1st, my name came up at number 4. It was a complete anticlimax to my planning for the day, and I thought there was no way the show would go on with my proposal given this unexpected result. As it turned out, it didn't matter to them. This TV director was all about seizing the moment, and shortly before they called out the winner, the host announced that there was a surprise announcement by Levy Collins. "Come on up, Levy," she said, beaming from ear to ear. There was no way out. This was it. I went on stage, spoke about how I had met my fiancée, proceeded to drop on my knee and made the proposal without dropping the ball. My girlfriend became my fiancée, and the whole erupted into cheers as social media became alight with this unexpected happening on live TV. It was a spectacular night. The next day, all hell broke loose. 5 months prior to my coming to that challenge, I had broken up with a woman who I had dated exclusively for 2 years. We had had a very acrimonious breakup. I had discovered that we had been 3 in the relationship, and I hadn't handled it very well. Upon the treacherous discovery, I moved house abruptly and took all my belongings and had not given her an opportunity to explain anything. The evidence that I had pointing to her infidelity was indisputable, and I wasn't having any explanation or allowing any amicable closure of any sort. Stung by my refusal to converse during the entire period of that challenge, and gutted by the proposal that she and millions of others had watched on TV, she swung into revenge mode with the gusto of a lioness on the prowl. She thought that the live proposal was aimed at hurting her. Overnight, social media became awash with stories, claiming that I had another wife who I had abandoned and beaten back in Eldoret, and how the guy who had proposed on TV was a phony. The proposal was on November 1st, 2013. On November 5th that year, a story ran about me in the Daily Nation and the Star newspapers saying that my, quote, wife, one Faustin Naibe, unquote, had accused me of assaulting her and beating her unconscious with a microwave. It was sensational stuff, and I was heavily vilified for allegedly proposing to one woman while married to another. And being this wife-beating maniac, I became aware of social media tabloids like Gafla, Daily Post, and Kiliman Imams for the first time in my life. It was sheer hell, reading all manner of things about myself on the net. In fact, the day that story broke, I sobbed. They say the truth hurts, but I tell you, lies can put you in a coma. If you put out a Google search on me, this story will come up prominently even today. That is how much damage lies can perpetuate. I tried to explain through a Facebook post that she was a jealous ex-girlfriend who had cheated on me, but it didn't wash. The comments came back thick and fast, loaded with vindictive and vicious words. Robert Alai, a prominent blogger, was hired to do the social media ninja work. And even when I approached him with the truth, he simply told me he, quote, owed me nothing, unquote. Meanwhile, the court case began in December 2013. I was given cash bail and I had to go to court over and over again, 24 times in total. My accuser showed up narrating how we were, quote, married, unquote, purportedly through a letter, and telling stories of how she had been beaten to a pulp on a day I wasn't even in Eldoret. She brought in her pastor friend whose story didn't match hers but ran the same tagline. The Nairobian wrote about it twice. My cousin Shadrach Wangara wrote about the atrocity I was undergoing on Facebook. He was arrested and harassed by cops in Nairobi who had been hired by my accuser. It seemed that every attempt to clear my name was just lighting up more fires, and I eventually decided to shut up and go to court quietly. 2014 came and went with numerous court appearances and mentions. My defense kept asking the complainant for a P3 form, which is a Kenya Police Medical Examination report form, to substantiate the claims that I had battered her. My defense also asked for pictures and evidences of these events and of our marriage as well. My accuser and her lawyers began to stall. Some of the excuses they gave were, oh, the doctor is unavailable, the police officer in question was transferred, and so on and so forth. 2015 came and my accuser got married to the guy I had discovered that she had been cheating on me with prior to the Slim Possible challenge. I thought that because she was now married, the case would tank for sure. Desperate to get over and done with the whole ordeal, I wrote him an email asking him what he wanted from me. Yet he was married to her. I implored him to allow us to walk away from the matter. He never replied. The case continued and the prosecution went on mark timing, asking the judge for more time to prove this case. It was granted. My accuser's husband responded to my emails by accompanying her to court as they smirked at me while I was in the dock. We were in court 6 times that year. The court circus went on in 2016 with the same strategy of stalling. I went to court and there was an adjournment because the couple were looking for evidence. There was also a new P3 form that they were trying to get admitted in court. The shenanigans were endless and the case was moved to March 2017 and then to September 24th, 2017 and finally to December 11th, 2017. On that day, the court dismissed that case in its entirety, terming it malicious prosecution. It had been 4 long years trying to get justice, but it had paid off. The chapter was finally over and without the fanfare and attention that it began with. When the magistrate made the pronouncement, vindicating me of all wrongdoing, there were no newspaper or gutter press reporters in the court corridors. There were no bloggers on social media, no social media ninjas or the vicious commentators waiting on the corridors of justice. Yet these same people had peddled all manner of stories and falsehoods. It was so quiet and still, and I was so choked up with emotion in a courtroom filled with strangers awaiting the fate of their own cases. It had ended without me ever uttering a word in court. I was so full of emotion that I walked to town from the court buildings forgetting that I had parked a car at the courthouse parking lot. However, the damage it did to my reputation was astronomical. That my fiancée then, who is my wife now, even stayed with me, is a testament to her belief and trust in a man she had known for barely 3 months. That was a silver lining. But herein is the lesson. Define relationships clearly and make sure that any relationship that needs to come to an end is ended amicably, especially with the opposite gender. I came to attest to the fact that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. That statement is truly no lie.